just break it into the discussion. I've got a whole lot of questions. There'll be some for Shane, some for Richard and others. So I'll pick a few and we'll just get going and see what happens. So look, the first question, or one of the things that's popped up, these are the ones that are most popular. People vote and they put lots of likes. First one is, what's the biggest challenge Auckland is facing in implementation of a more active travel? Maybe that's to you, Shane. So what's the biggest challenge Auckland is facing in the implementation of more active travel?
Very good question. My answer right now goes back to the road safety piece.
Okay.
Until we provide safe infrastructure, reduce speeds, we're going to have, our vulnerable road users, which are our pedestrians and cyclists, are going to be at risk.
Yeah.
And we need to address that. I'm pleased to say that we've got a speed management plan that was approved by the Auckland Transport Board, where 700 kilometres of Auckland roads are going to be subject to speed management plans over the next couple of years, and we need to crack on and implement that.
That's good, and I think that we've talked about this a lot. The idea of a sort of 30-kilometre-an-hour city, get these speeds right down. It's the biggest killer, isn't it? The speed, and it, even outside of schools, we still allow people to drive past. In the US, they stop. People have to stop when they're driving their cars. So, are we working with NZTA on that? I guess you're talking to Fergus and the team, aren't you?
Yeah, we are. We need to, it's a partnership approach. There's a number of players in this space.
Yep.
And we need to, and we're working with central government because the legislative framework makes it challenging at the moment, but we want to crack on, get it done.
Great, thank you, Shane. Lucy, from what you've seen of Auckland so far, it was a difficult one, this one, but it's popped up as highly supportive. What have you seen so far? Any ideas around sort of practical tips for getting on with this? What's some things that you've spotted in your travels in the last?
So I haven't done a lot of travelling around Auckland, and I think there's nothing worse than someone who spent about 20 minutes in your city coming in and telling you what they think of it.
But you have, but a lot of people come in quickly, and we'll have a quick view of our place, and you'll take away a view of us very quickly, and that view needs to be.
I've had a very biased view. I've had a very nice bike ride around your cycle infrastructure on an electric bike, so that was amazing. I also had quite an amusing experience coming from the airport very early on Sunday morning in a taxi, and I very rarely go in taxis, and I'd forgotten that when you get in a taxi and they ask you what you do for a job, you need to be a bit more cagey than say that you work on something to do with sustainable travel. I was fairly opaque, but the taxi driver immediately pointed out as we drove along a very wide, for me, coming from London, where streets are mostly 2 lanes in each direction maximum, we were driving along a very big, busy road, and he pointed out the empty cycle track, and he said, look, there's a cycle track here, and there's no one on this cycle track. And I was thinking, but we're on a 6 or 8 lane highway, and there's no one on that either. It's more a fact of it being very early in the morning than anything else. But you do get a view of different people's perspectives if you go out and talk to different people, and it is good to hear everyone's different perspectives.
Yeah. Okay, great. All right. This is a really interesting one, and I'm not. So, young women, Māori and Pacifica, and our disabled people are not as active as the rest of us. So, what's the best way to target activity intersectionally? Who wants to answer that one?
I can start on that because I think it's clear from the Active New Zealand studies that walking is for both women and men the #1 source of our activity. And more so as we age. So the further we age, the greater percentage of our activity will be done by walking. We stop doing other sports.
Okay.
And interestingly, as you age at each end of the spectrum, you become more of a vulnerable user. And they are the ones who really need looking after in terms of making sure we've got a safe system. So I think if we want to do a quick population-wide approach where we're targeting as many people in the middle of the curve, then looking at ways of making people feel safe, making people think that walking is convenient and accessible and attractive, I think those type of things, which sit really well with things that we have to do every day, like commuting, that would be a really smart way of addressing for all of those communities, increasing physical activity.
Okay, great, thank you. Richard, do you want to comment?
Well, I think that probably the solution is to try and ensure young Māori women and people with disabilities are in leadership roles making decisions around transport, because there's probably too many people making things for people seeing it through a different lens than the people who need to use that infrastructure.
So true.
So something that I would see potentially as safe and easy and to walk on my own or to run up some stairs or get to somewhere would be completely different with someone from one of those groups. So once again, it goes back to how do we get people like children and things involved with a lens to look at the infrastructure we're building and doing in the streets and roads and streets framework, different things about making sure that those people are involved in the decision making, because if we don't involve them, then they're immediately not going to be involved with the infrastructure.
Great point.
Can I just
We were,
add on that as well?
okay.
One thing, the equity point is really important. That if you map where pedestrian injuries occur, they're at a higher level in South Auckland, particularly for children. And the Safe Kids team, who've done a paper in the NZMJ recently, show that as well as having a higher chance of being injured there, the number of speed calming devices is lower. So we've got a clear sort of link between cause and effect in terms of if we're not slowing speeds around schools and where the children are in South Auckland, we're going to have more injuries there. That's what we've got. So if we want equity, we need to invest there.
Okay, brilliant. I mean, so we were out yesterday in Glen Innes actually with my team walking around, and I don't know if you've been to Glen Innes, but there's a really fantastic cycleway which ends in the central city, in that town centre, comes in through a sort of subway. I mean, it's frightening. Absolutely frightening underneath the railway tracks, and there's a few lights and a few buzzers, and it's scary stuff, you know, even it's scary in the daytime. And I just thought these are little simple things we need to be tackling quickly and getting these done. So look, those are some really great answers. You mentioned Roads and Streets framework. We've got number 117 people have liked this one. I have hope for Auckland from what I'm hearing tonight, is what the person's asked. With all these people here talking about healthy streets, when will AT ratify the Roads and Streets framework and enable healthy streets and do more good work like they're doing? So that's a question.
So the Transport Design Manual, which is comes under that umbrella, it's been on development for quite some time, but it's going through a final review, and we hope to have it ratified before the urban streets part of it ratified.
The street
before
design
Christmas.
guide part,
Yeah.
Great, thank you. So, will Auckland Council and Auckland Transport's criteria for community... it's just gone off. Will Auckland Council and Auckland Transport's criteria for community consultation include, from 2018 onwards, health impacts and benefits? Hard one to answer that one. That's pretty high up on the agenda. So, will Auckland Council and Auckland Transport's criteria for community consultation include, from 2018 onwards, health impacts and benefits? I don't know, maybe that's something you could answer or try to.
I can ask. I'm one vote. I'm pretty sure we look at some lens of it, not in the kind of holistic way that Lucy's talking about, but we could easily, Shane could easily, we could all easily push for that, and I don't see why not. It's not a silly idea, and I don't see how it could cost much either, if that was a limitation.
Okay. Wonderful to see AT CEO sitting next to a public health professional. How does AT consult with the health community, and how is that feedback incorporated? That's a hard one. You might be a bit new on the job, but I don't know.
Oh, well...
You might know it already.
So we have some linkages with the health community. Some of you may know we've been fortunate to have 3 directors on AT who are also been previously or concurrently directors of district health boards. And that influence has obviously been there. Been fortunate enough to have Healthy Auckland together, and Michael came along to one of our executive team meetings and talked about that. And that was quite insightful, and I still remember one of the facts that came out of that around the level of obesity, how much change there'd been in terms of adult obesity in New Zealand between 1977 and today, and it's increased from about 10% to over 30%, I think, Michael. So, so those linkages are there, but we need to do more. It's something that, you know, we're starting to appreciate a lot more, but we need to kind of have that spread through the organisation.
Thank you. That's great. Shall we have a... Oh, someone's pointing at the watch. Okay. Let's just... one more question on here. How about a question from the floor? There's a hand up. Where are the microphones, guys, or am I causing a problem now? Here's one. Let's go for this in the middle there.
I just wondered, within Auckland Transport and Auckland Council, you know, I hear about designing for the extremes, that is, the old people like me, and also the infants and children. And the city center has someplace well over 40,000 people living in it, but not a lot of children. And I wonder if the children, being most vulnerable, that is, they're shorter, do you have a way of measuring? Are you looking at air pollution from the large number of diesel buses? Is there a way, because those diesel buses often discharge at the lowest level, where the little kids are walking on the footpaths?
So, sir, there's a bunch of questions within that one. I mean,
is there a way to measure it, and are you measuring it?
Well, we have to start measuring, and the mayor last year was in Paris as part of a C40 mayor's climate session with Michael Bloomberg that established that, and he signed an agreement around an emissions-free zone within the downtown city centre of Auckland, which a lot of us are very excited about, because that sounds at one level quite esoteric, but what that means is, I mean, Shane's team are going to be buying only electric buses going forward. There's an opportunity.
Might not just be electric.
Okay, so
there might be some other fossil fuel free.
In fact, that's the better word. It's called a fossil-free emission zone. So it's a complex word. So do you want to maybe a bit more on that, Shane? Yeah,
no. So we have a roadmap which to move forward to meet that.
Yeah.
We have 2 electric buses, as most of you know, operating at the moment on the City Link. We're looking at more trials and engaging with other cities such as Christchurch, Wellington. We have quite a challenge in front of us to meet that, but we are committed to doing it. And it's quite exciting in terms of noise, in terms of emissions, in terms of, you know, making the city a pleasant place to be.
Yeah, that's great. Does Richard want to say anything about that? Or?
No, I mean, just we should be doing more of it. But I also want to say we have lots of kids in the city centre, and it's growing dramatically. The reason often why you don't see them is because it's not a safe place often to be for kids. But and we need to act faster on that, because I see on the shore there's lots of kids that come with parents on the bus from the shore every day, and they obviously go to school or childcare centre within the city while the parents are at work and things. And my little nephew was born 3 weeks ago, and they live in an apartment in Ponsonby, so we've got to make sure that's right for him as well, please.
So yeah, the issue of children is really important as well, and if you think about the success of the Wynyard Quarter and the children's playground, I mean, there's 52,000 people living in downtown Auckland now. In 1991 there was 1,800. It's a very different place, and there are lots of mums and dads and families and lots of younger children around. And you know, we're looking at ways we can build streets and make them into parks. There's a real journey around moving from tarmac into green space. So the Victoria Linear Park is a 2-kilometre long parkway, which we're looking at building from Albert Park, all the way through to Wynyard. So there's a lot of things that we are doing. Maybe a new school in downtown for children. So there's a whole range of things we have to start thinking about. So thank you for your question, sir. I think we've been told that the time is up, but look, I want to thank the panelists and for their time tonight. Thank you for your questions on the app. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Richard to give the vote of thanks, to thank Lucy and the team for coming all the way. Lucy, thank you on behalf of my team. I know you've got a lot of time you're going to be spending with my team over the next few days, and you have been. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and expertise. Shane, thank you. Dan, thank you to the team, Michael and Richard. So thank you very much, everyone. Richard.
Well, thank you very much. First of all, thank you all for coming. I think it's been a good, but it feels like rather quick night, but I know conversations will be continuing on after this and on Twitter and on Facebook. No one talks like this on Facebook, so just Twitter. Just want to thank Ludo for running this evening, and Lucy, I think you gave us some real insight into what we need to be doing now, really quickly, and we thank you so much for coming here, and I hope you get more than 2 hours off in your time in New Zealand to do some fun things. Also, thank you Shane and Michael for being on the panel, and thank you to the Auckland Conversations team and Auckland Transport and Boffimiscal, and there's South Base Construction, Resine. Am I supposed to be thinking? Okay, good. Architectural Designers New Zealand, New Zealand Planning Institute, New Zealand Institute of Architects Incorporated, NZ Green Building Council, MR Cagney, Brookfields Lawyers. I probably missed things. Thank you to Lisa for opening up for us. Yeah, I think it's a good conversation. That's pretty obvious to most of you in this room that we need to be doing this work. There is a lot of good work happening. Just gone through the Auckland Plan refresh, which is a lot of good stuff in there. The Roads and Streets framework, which we just need to be moving forward, improving, moving on. Obviously ATAP and the 10-year budget, and working with our not so new anymore, but the government together on this issue. I know Julianne Genter announced a few weeks ago around looking at South Auckland and the issues there and how we can improve stuff really fast. And I think it is absolutely important for all of us to be working in this space. But all of you, as an elected member, keep doing your work too, because we often only hear from the please don't do and the please don't change and please save my car park. And so it would be really, really good. Not that those voices are important, but it's please can you all speak up too. Speak up around these important things, because it is hard to change things, and change is hard for everyone. But if we have a mix of voices from all backgrounds and all situations, then we actually start changing things, and it's with the community, and we can, hand on heart say that, oh, the community does want this. So that is my wish to you, and we will do better. So thank you very much, and have an awesome night, and travel safe home, and we'll see you soon.